So about 4 months ago, I decided to start my very first Souls game. I thought it'd be a great way to start off this channel, especially with them, announcing DLC, which is going to be now out very soon. And to pretty much describe my journey on Elden Ring, especially in the early and beginning stages, let's just say it wasn't the best, alright? Oh my god!
Who are you after?
No, I'm done. What are you even wrong with Mikola, bro? But as we progressed on and we got stronger, we got new weapons, items, and upgrades, I slowly became a little bit better, Now that we're actually finally done with the game, I figured it'd be best to actually increase my knowledge, so whenever I do a second playthrough and I actually do a 100% completionist playthrough, I actually know everything about this game. I know all the items, I know the lore about every land and area, and a lot of you guys recommended me this video to help me out with that. So that's what we're going to be checking out in today's video. It's another Vaati video. Super excited to check this out, and yeah, let's go to school, kids.
Oh, yeah!
Our story doesn't begin in the lands between. It begins in the cosmos, far away, with an outer god called the Greater Will. There are a lot of outer gods mentioned in Elden Ring. You can think of these kind of like the Great Ones of Bloodborne. They're distant beings.
I know. I'm going to try my best not to pause too much, but guys, I'm so excited to play Bloodborne. I am genuinely so excited. I cannot wait to play that game. Just right after the Sekiro series, we're hopping straight into Bloodborne, Literally, purely just based off seeing this, I can tell that's probably going to be like a final boss, just from the way the background is setting. And you know what? This isn't a Bloodborne video. Let's get back into the reaction.
These kind of like the Great Ones of Bloodborne. They're distant beings. They're all-powerful and they're quite unknowable by design. But many of these outer gods want to make their presence felt in the world. The Greater Will, maybe most of all. To this end, it sent a golden star hurtling towards the lands between. The Elden Star's incantation tells us that this golden star was bearing a beast, an Elden beast. The Elden Remembrance calls it a vassal beast of the Greater Will. If you didn't know, a vassal is someone who holds land on behalf of their overlord. Obviously, this is fitting in this.
Does he mean vassal or vessel? Never heard of vassal before. I mean, he kind of just did explain what vassal is, but
case because the Elden Beast occupied the lands between on behalf of the Greater Will and was a living incarnation of the concept of order. As such, this beast would later become the Elden Ring. The Elden Ring itself is made up of runes of power, some great, some small, that together represent a sort of logic for the world to follow. Thus, the Elden Ring represents order. The true nature of this order is a subject of constant debate and research undergone by fundamentalists. But two of the key fundamentals are the laws of causality and regression. You can think of the law of causality as cause and effect, where actions have consequences, and those consequences are new causes that branch out into infinity. These are the relationships between things. Then there's the law of regression that states that all things eternally yearn to converge and return to their roots. Fittingly, then, the Elden Ring is housed within the Erd Tree, which towers over the lands between. But it's very important to stress that life in the lands between did not begin with the Erd Tree, the Elden Ring, or the Elden Beast.
I think we will end up finding out about that in the Elden Ring DLC, how the lands between essentially came to be, or at least how the Erd Tree came to be,
Lands between were occupied well before the Greater Will came. There were other beings here. There were other factions here. There were other gods here, and there was even another great tree here before the Erd Tree. And this is where a huge twist regarding the Erd Tree comes in. So there are incantations in the game called aspects of the Crucible. According to their descriptions, these are manifestations of the Erd Tree's primal vital energies. And I quote, "They are an aspect of the primordial crucible where all life was once blended together." But how could all life be blended together in the Erd Tree if the Erd Tree appeared after life existed? Well, there can only be one answer, right? That the Erd Tree is a parasite, and it took over a tree that existed here before. This ancient tree was called the Great Tree. So the Great Tree was almost certainly the location of this primordial crucible, and it must have been a very powerful primordial force for the Greater Will to have commandeered. It might even be the reason the Lands Between is important to the Greater Will in the first place. It also explains why spells and enemies related to the Great Tree's crucible would eventually be looked down upon. For example, the knot talisman is fashioned from a knotted vestige of the crucible, and it was considered a signifier of the divine in ancient times, but is now increasingly disdained as an impurity as civilization.
So my question is, are they like crucible people? Are they like kind of related to the omens? Because I know the omens, they're kind of like, you know, shunned and looked down upon to the greater will of the Earth Tree. So I don't know if there's any like kind of like direct correlation between like the omens and the crucibles, or that's kind of like what I got from that entire thing.
Enemies related to the Crucible
Wow.
are the Omen,
Wow.
the Misbegotten, and the Crucible
crazy.
Knight, and all three of them would be
That is-
shunned,
I swear to
enslaved,
God,
or
I've never
imprisoned.
seen this. I
Those
swear
who
I've never
speak for
seen
the Erd
this.
Tree don't want you to know its roots, so to speak. According to the spell, protection of the Erd Tree, in the beginning everything was in opposition to the Erd Tree, but through countless victories in war, it became the
That's
embodiment
crazy.
of order.
In Marika's own words, the Erd Tree governs all. The choice is thine. Become one with the order, or divest thyself of it. To wallow at the fringes, a powerless upstart.
But the Greater Will needed more than a big tree. It needed loyal agents in the Lands Between. To this end, it has the Two Fingers, who are its envoys. The Two Fingers heirloom has a weird
So
picture
like
of
the
them,
Two
but
Fingers, is it kind of like a lesser entity of the Three Fingers, since the Three Fingers is their greater will, quote unquote? That's kind of what I've always wanted to figure out and know more about the Two Fingers, because I know there are like two ladies who I guess represent the Two Fingers.
it reads, of course, fingers cannot speak, yet these are eloquent. Persistently they wriggle, spelling out mysteries in the air. Thus did we gain the words of our faith. These words are interpreted by the finger readers. These are the undying old crones.
Oh,
that you would
they're
have found
finger
throughout the
readers.
Lands
My bad, you
Between.
guys.
They pass down the wisdom of the Two Fingers, or at least they used to.
Your fingers, please, your fingers. I can read them.
Most of them appear to have lost their purpose, and they're desperate to read your fingers and tell you annoying riddles, since their two fingers are likely dead. And yes, of course, there are multiple sets of Two Fingers. You would have found their corpses on
That's
the
another
tops
thing I
of
always
the
wondered.
divine.
Why are there so many Two Fingers to activate like a great rune? Like, I guess there were, you know, like multiple Two Fingers. And then how did they die? Did they die from age? Did like maybe some like greater entity kill them? Or I don't know, maybe Vaati will end up answering all these questions later on in the reaction. So let's get back to it.
Towers. Atop these towers, you loot the fingers in order to activate the true power of a great rune. Specifically though, you are giving benediction back to your great rune. You're taking a blessing back from the two dead fingers, essentially. This is just one of many blessings that the Two Fingers can bestow, and my point is kind of that the Two Fingers clearly have more than just influence. They have real power on some level. The Greater Will needs these powerful envoys and agents because, while it's obviously incredibly powerful, it does seem limited by a few things. First is space. The Greater Will didn't come to the Lands Between itself, it sent an Elden Beast to
Which
do
is
its
crazy
bidding
to me,
instead.
man.
Second is time. There is a moment later in the game where your
Like, if
pair
you're
of Two
so
Fingers...
all powerful the way you claim yourself to be, why are you sending things to do your work for you, you know? If you're so powerful, you should be able to get it done yourself. And that's my take on things.
go still because they're forced to commune with the Greater Will for guidance.
When they are finished, the fingers will again offer their guidance. But thousands, if not tens of thousands, of moons must first pass. No matter for me. But you, how will you ever manage the wait?
So the Greater Will needs a physical manifestation of order. It needs envoys to convey its will, but what it also needs is a god. Introducing Marika the Eternal. I have this utterly enormous mind map of Elden
my
Ring's
God.
lore, and there's a reason she's at the center. She's essentially the equivalent of Gwyn from Dark Souls, except Unlike Gwyn, Marika didn't just crawl out of the dark and find power. To an extent, it seems like she earned it. We don't know much about her origins, except that she is of the Numen race, which is actually an origin that you can choose in the character selection screen. Numen come from outside the lands between, and are supposed descendants of denizens of
Neanderthals,
another world,
bro.
long-lived, but seldom born. At some point, Marika was chosen as an Empyrean. What is an Empyrean? Well, an Empyrean is a being chosen by the Fingers as a candidate for godhood. As an Empyrean,
I recognize an Empyrean. I know there are a few Empyreans in the game. If I'm not mistaken, Melania might be an Empyrean. I know Ronnie is an Empyrean, and I think Mikola is an Empyrean. So those are the three Empyreans. Well, actually, Marika is an Empyrean too. So those are the four Empyreans that I know of in the game. There could be others, or I don't know if Melania is one. The only reason why I said that is because she's the sister of Mikola, who is an Empyrean. So
chosen by the Fingers as a candidate for godhood. As an Empyrean, Marika received the aid of a shadow to do her bidding. So what is a shadow? Well, it's a wolf, shadowbound to its Empyrean by the two Fingers. Lunar Princess Rani is another example of an Empyrean with a shadowbound beast you would have met live. These creatures are the Empyrean's very own shadow. They are completely loyal to their needs and, by definition, incapable of treachery. Marika's shadow was a beast called Malakath.
Ronnie's was Blade.
Maybe Mikola's was Torrent. But Marika's sole need of her shadow was as a vessel to lock away destined death. So what is destined death? Well, according to Enya, it's the Rune of Death.
The Rune of Death goes by two names. The other is Destined Death.
We mentioned earlier that the Elden Ring is made up of runes, and at some point, maybe when she was chosen as a god, Marika plucked the Rune of Death from the Elden Ring. She gave the Rune of Death to Malakath, her totally loyal shadow, who bore a black blade imbued with this rune. It's kind of genius, really. In a single act, she removed the concept of death from the lands between, while also commanding total control of death through her shadow, who could deliver it at her whim.
If Marika removed the entire concept of death from the lands between, does anything ever die in the lands between? And if they quote unquote die, where the hell do they go? Is she like why did she even remove the concept of death from the lands between in the first place? Is she like kind of maybe doing something with these dead bodies? Is she using that to feel the Erd Tree, kind of like how we saw in the Elden Ring story trailer that I kind of speculated that those dead bodies were kind of used to feel the Erd Tree? Bro, my head's just going all over the place, dude.
Now, some of you might be asking, if death is removed from the lands between, how come I can kill this dog? First off,
that's not a dog, that's a turtle.
Second, from a lore point of view, that dog isn't really dead. It's simply in the process of its spirit, or its soul, returning to the Erd Tree. Catacomb dungeons, for example, are specifically constructed near the roots of the Great Tree for this reason, so that the Erd Tree can reabsorb their ashes back into it. This process replaced the concept of a death that you were destined to have, but this random spirit outside of a catacomb dungeon says it best. As another example of this theory, when you kill a major boss, you receive
this
a remembrance
crazy,
of
dude.
them. These are spirits, and they are hewn into the Erd Tree. In this way, thanks to the Erd Tree's grace, their spirits are immortalized, in a sense. This new form of death also explains
all the gods we killed in Elden Ring aren't essentially dead? Could Radahn, Melania, Mohg, are all those guys still alive? Margit? That'd be crazy if we like kind of come across them again in the DLC.
What's happening when you summon spirits?
From ash and return to the Erd Tree.
However, some spirits never return to the Erd Tree, and they rise within death as corpses or skeletons instead. So this was the new order, and it's important to stress that it was in this moment, when the Rune of Death was removed, when Destined Death was taken, this is when order became the
That
Golden
makes so much
Order.
more sense.
The forbidden shadow plucked from the Golden Order upon its creation.
Specifically, this was Marika's Golden Order. So not only did she become a god and a vessel for the Elden Ring, she became renowned as Marika the Eternal for her removal of destined death. It was a huge part of her character and her reign as well. However, Marika had more than just
I'm
death.
kind of confused, bro, because I thought we were the one that removed destined death whenever we defeated Malekith. So, or maybe that's what Vaati is alluding to.
She had wars to fight, as the world was occupied by
plus
many
same-sex.
forces that could threaten her golden order. There was war with the Storm Lord, who likely ruled over Stormvale, and there was a war with the Giants, who were masters of a flame that could burn the Erd Tree. There was war with the ancient dragons, who incidentally had stones that could twist time and thus slay a god. And finally, there was war brewing with the Carrion royalty,
A lot of
who
wars.
had
A
previously
lot
obeyed
of
laws which
wars.
contravened the Golden Order. Thus, sort of similar to how the Greater Will needed an Empyrean to enforce its will, Marika herself needed someone to wage war. So, there was to be a husband, a consort.
This is probably where
an
Godfrey
Elden
comes in.
Lord. The man chosen was Horalu, a
Chad
ferocious
free.
warrior who became known as the Lord of the Battlefield. His crown was warranted with strength, and while it was for this strength that Marika married him, he was also required to take a vow to conduct himself as a lord. To suppress the ceaseless lust for battle that raged within, Horalu took the beast regent Sarosh upon his back. You'll notice this is another example of a beast being given for the purpose of serving order. Thus, in this moment, he went from being Horalu, warrior, to Godfrey,
Yes,
the
sir.
first Elden Lord, consort to Queen Marika, and a certified demigod. Godfrey and Marika had 3 demigod children together. There was Godwyn the Golden, who you saw being
That's
killed
crazy,
in the
man. Poor
opening trailer,
Godwyn.
and there were
I wonder
also
what they killed
the
him for.
reviled Omen twins, Morgoth, who guards the Erd Tree, and Moog, who became
And that's
Lord
just
of
weird to
Blood.
me. So Godfrey and Marika, obviously, you know, and you mean to tell me that Moog and Margit came out looking like that? Something's not adding up. Something's not adding up, bro.
You might think that Godric was another demigod child, but he actually wasn't. Instead, he was probably descended from Godwyn. Anyway, we'll talk about the demigods more in detail in another video, so subscribe for that. But for now, just know that Godfrey and his offspring were the first demigods.
Why did they
henceforth known
look like
as
that
the
though?
Golden
Like, I don't
Lineage.
get it, bro.
In his wars, Godfrey led his 16 Crucible Knights into battle, who were named so for they fought with the primordial powers of the Erd Tree. Their incantations were aspects of the Crucible itself, and they likely fought giants, dragons, the Stormlord, and more to usher in their age, the age of the Erd Tree.
In Marika's own words, "Hark, brave warriors. Hark, my lord Godfrey. We commend your deeds. Guidance hath delivered ye through each ordeal to the place ye stand. Put the giants to the sword and confine the flame atop the mount. Let a new epoch begin, an epoch glistening with life. Brandish the Elden Ring for the age of the Erd Tree."
The Erd Tree would go on to be largely seen as a blessing for all of those in the lands between, especially those close to it in Leyndell, the capital city of the Erd Tree. The tree bestowed blessings. For example, the dew that dropped from its branches were like jewels. It
The Erd
loomed
Tree is pretty
overhead
beautiful,
as a
you know, now
constant
that I think
reminder
about
of
it.
order, and its roots reached far and wide, relieving many of the burden of death. In fact, Erd Tree burial was one of the highest honors a hero
Wow.
could receive. One by one, the previous factions of the world fell. The giants were put to the sword, and their fell god was killed by Marika herself. The ancient dragons broke down the walls of Leyndell, but met fierce retaliation. However,
did
I think
eliminate
the
all
House
the
of the Erd Tree
dragons?
encountered the most trouble against the land to their southwest, Leonia. Here, the House of the Moon repelled their offensives time and time again, and I mean that literally because there was not just one but 2 wars fought here, and in both of these, there was no victory for the Golden
Wow.
nor for the Moon. And I suspect it was probably because of these lobsters. these damn things can snipe you from like a mile away, and it's bullshit. Actually, it was probably because of the Carrier Knights, who, according to their weapons, were able to wield sorcerous battle skills, and despite numbering fewer than 20, this power made them a match for even the champions of gold in battle. These enchanted knights were anointed by the Lunar Queen, a young astrologer who went on to establish the House of Caria as royalty in this land. With her bewitching lunar magic, she won over the Academy of Raya Lucaria, where glintstone sorcery was studied, and united the Carian royal family and the learned scholars of Raya Lucaria defended their home from the golden aggressors. At the head of this great golden army was Radagon.
Lord Radagon was a great champion, possessed of flowing red locks. He came to these lands at the head of a great golden host when he met Lady Renala in battle.
These two champions clashed, fell in love, and joined their houses.
Radagon once cleansed himself with celestial dew, repented his territorial aggressions, and swore his love to Renala, the Order of the Erdtree, and the fate of the moon.
But yes, bro,
were
Radagon
conjoined,
ended up leaving.
and all the wounds of war
And I'm pretty sure
forgiven.
Radagon is
You might
America.
think it's strange that the Greater Will would permit this union, but it's not too odd, all things considered. As with most From Software games, sorcery and faith are just two sides of the same coin, and both of these powers stem from the cosmos. Radagon and Renala were known to have 3 children together. Lunar Princess Rani, who inherited her mother's propensity for lunar magic, Radan, who took after
My
his
goat,
father
my
Radagon
favorite character.
and would go on to master gravitational magic, and Rykard, who pioneered new hex sorceries and would go on to feed himself to a
Rykard
great
is weird,
serpent.
bro.
It follows that at some point after this, Marika began to harbor doubts. Doubts about the Golden Order, that she had had a hand in creating.
In Marika's own words, I declare mine intent to search the depths of the Golden Order through understanding of the proper way. Our faith, our grace is increased. Those blissful early days of blind belief are long past. My comrades, why must ye falter?
And it's at this point that we should talk about Marika's
That's one thing I did want to learn
motivations,
about, like,
character.
what is she
This
doing
is
all
surely
this
going to be
for?
one of those huge points
Is
of
she
debate
trying to
in the
ascend to
coming
something
years.
greater?
But for now, my working theory is that she wanted to discover the truth behind order and the truth behind the greater will, and she believed that bonds had to be broken so that they could be better understood.
I mean, I guess.
She believed that there was great meaning to be found in hardship.
Queen Marika has high hopes for us, that we continue to struggle unto eternity.
For Lord Godfrey, his struggle ended at the end of his campaigns. According to his armor, he led the war against the giants, faced the Storm
So
Lord
who
alone.
is the Storm Lord? Was it? I mean, it can't be. What's his name? What's his name? The dude we fought in Stormville. That can't be the Godric. He can't be the Storm Lord. I guess he was like maybe the former ruler of Stormville Castle. That's something else I've always wanted to know.
And then there came a moment when his last worthy
Or
enemy
maybe the
fell.
Storm Lord is Placidusax. Now that I think about it.
It was then, as the story is told, that the hue of Lord Godfrey's eyes faded. In truth, he was robbed of his grace. Then
That's
Marika sent
crazy.
him away.
America's
Lord,
just hopping around at this point,
And thy
bro.
warriors, I divest each of thee of thy grace. With thine eyes dimmed, ye will be driven from the lands between. Ye will wage war in a land afar, where ye will live and die.
This became known as the Long March of the Tarnished, as Godfrey and his tarnished descendants walked away from the lands between. But Queen Marika absolutely had a plan here, that Lord Godfrey and his descendants would one day return stronger, having struggled outside of grace.
Then, after thy death, I will give back what I once claimed, return to the lands between, wage war, and brandish the Elden Ring, grow strong in the face of death. Warriors of my lord, Lord Godfrey.
Soon after, she found a new husband. Either that or a new husband was
Crazy.
found
America,
for her.
ho, bro.
When Godfrey, first Elden Lord, was hounded from the lands between, Radagon left Renala to return to the Erdtree capital, becoming Queen Marika's second husband and king
That's what
consort.
confuses me so much, you guys. Like, dude, I wish I knew like the true answer to this. I feel like I know I do, but then again, I don't, especially just based off this. And I don't know how long ago this was. I assume it's probably whenever Elden Ring first came out. So you guys gotta let me know down in the comment section below. Is Marika Radagon, or is Radagon Marika? Or is it kind of like an alter ego thing, you know? Because I would really like to get to the bottom of that, bro. That's probably like the one big question I have about Elden Ring, you know? You guys gotta let me know down in your theories below, or if there is like an answer that's already, if this question has already been answered, just please let me know.
The title of second Elden Lord. The mystery endures to this day as to why Lord Radagon would cast Lady Renala aside, and moreover, why a mere champion would be chosen for the seat of Elden Lord.
Whatever the case, as a part of this union, Radagon's prior 3 children with Renala became demigod stepchildren, granted grace thanks to their new family tree. Renala was broken by this, and so was her country, Leonia. The Queen's set reads, when Renala, head of both the Academy of Raya Lucaria and the Carian royal family, lost her husband Radagon, her heart went along with him. And then those at the Academy realized that Renala was no champion after all. In the wake of Radagon's betrayal and Renala's poor judgment, Leonia struggled with civil war, with the Academy of Raya Lucaria on one side and the Carian royals
so messed
on the
up.
other. And it's here, during the age of the Erdtree, that Lunar Princess Rani, daughter of Renala and Radagon, stole a fragment of the Rune of Death.
It happened during the golden age of the
this?
Erdtree, long before the shattering of the Elden Ring. Someone stole a fragment of the Rune of Death from Malekith, the Black Blade.
As mentioned previously, Malekith was Marika's shadow, and he had sealed destined death in a black blade. Then a fragment, only a fragment, of this Rune of Death was stolen. And once this happened, Malekith went a step further in protecting destined death. He bound the blade within his own flesh, such
Kinda
that
like
none
Malekith
might
a little
rob
more,
death
you know.
ever again. It was too late, however. This fragment of the Rune of Death was used immediately, that night, to kill a demigod, Marika's own son, Godwyn the Golden.
That was the
Poor
first recorded
Godwyn,
death of a
man.
demigod in all history, and it became the catalyst.
Dang.
Soon, the Elden Ring was smashed, and thus sprang
Why
forth
did
the
they
war
kill him?
known
What
as
did
the
he do?
Shattering.
Now, there is a lot of really credible evidence that Marika was behind this plot to have a
Why would
fragment
she
of
want
the
her
Rune
own
of
son
Death stolen.
dead?
There's also a ton of evidence that Marika is behind the entirety of your tarnished quest, but
Bro, I don't
we'll
like
talk about
Marika,
that in
dude.
another
I'm not
video.
gonna lie.
For now, all you really need to know, in terms of the timeline at least, is this. After the marriage of Marika and Radagon, and after a fragment of the Rune of Death was stolen, Marika went on to shatter the Elden Ring, and Radagon attempted to repair it, to no avail. The Elden Ring had been broken into runes, some great and some small.
You know, it's said that Lord Radagon harbored a secret. A famed sculptor of the Erdtree capital was once summoned to render Lord Radagon's likeness in giant stature, when he glimpsed the skeleton in Radagon's closet. And as such, it's said the great statue harbors his secret too.
Of course, the huge twist in Elden Ring is that Radagon is Marika, or depending on what you believe, he became her, for she knew it was going to happen.
In Marika's own words, O Radagon, leal hound of the Golden Order, thou art yet to become me. Thou art yet to become a god. Let us be shattered, both. Mine other self.
You can tell when From Software is keeping something a little bit open-ended, and of everything in Elden Ring's lore, this will also go on to be one of the biggest unknowns.
I'm
as we
assuming
move
it's the
forward.
question I had
For
early
example,
on.
the wording, thou art yet to become me, reinforces that Marika and Radagon were two separate entities
So there were two
before
different
the
people.
shattering. However, In contrast, there is also evidence that Radagon was always part of Marika. For example, Enya says that
the demigods are each and all the direct offspring of Queen Marika.
But how can this be if Radagon married Renala and had those demigod children? The only way that makes sense is if Radagon was always Marika and he just went over there to seduce Renala long ago.
Bro.
I'll present more concrete theories in the future, but on this matter, the most important thing is,
I don't know what I think, bro.
Well, you can figure out a ton of Elden Ring's story. Not all of it is open to interpretation. Certain things are, and this is one of them. And your interpretation is a big part of what makes this story special. At any rate, the union of Radagon and Marika seems to be a union of two fundamental opposing laws of the Golden Order. We mentioned these laws earlier, actually. There's the law of causality, and Marika is an agent of cause and effect. And there's the law of regression, as Radagon is a character who aspires to be complete and regress together. So I have a theory that forcing these two beings that represent these concepts together would have corrected Marika's deviance. But even so, she was imprisoned in the Erd Tree for the crime of the Shattering.
Marika's trespass demanded a heavy sentence. But even in shackles, she remains a god and the Vision's vessel.
The conjoined Radagon and Marika even had two demigod children of their own, Miquella and Millennia. These two...
If Marika is Radagon, why did she force herself to become pregnant and birth two children? Like, they must have had to been like two separate people, or essentially they are two separate people. Bro, I don't know, man. I'm just gonna stop pouncing on that. Like I said, let me know down your theories, your questions, your answers in the comment section below.
Two children were born afflicted. Miquella was cursed with eternal childhood, and Millennia harbored a horrific rot within. Even so, these two children were both chosen as
Millennia is an Empyrean.
They were immensely sacred beings and eligible to inherit godhood from the Greater Will. Perhaps the Greater Will was just desperate to find a worthy successor, and indeed in the Shattering War to come, many would try to claim the shards of the Elden Ring, and they would try to take the throne, including, of course, the Tarnished, who returned from their long march at long last, which we'll talk about in the next main lore video. I should probably also mention here that if you become a patron, you'll see upcoming lore videos early, as that's one of the rewards you get if you pledge to the $3 tier. And if you think my channel really adds a lot of value to the Souls games for you to the point where you pledge $20, then in this new tier, you'll receive a new mug every 3 months that has a unique design on it, to do with the games by From Software. There are 4 to collect. The first one you'll get is inspired by Dark Souls, then Elden Ring, then Sekiro, and finally Bloodborne. And they all have fantastic art that I worked on with an amazing artist named
Shout out to Chu!
But anyway, I figured this is the right place to end this video, because the information here is going to be overwhelming. I bet it probably was too overwhelming, you know? It took me ages to commit these names and the relationships they had with other characters to memory, so I hope you guys are doing alright. One thing that helped me a lot was that we designed an enormous mind map with pretty much all of Elden Ring's lore,
dude,
all of its item descriptions,
crazy, man.
all of
Look
its
at all
dialogues, all of the relationships between characters that we can think of. We added all of this together, and it helped a ton in learning about the story and visualizing it all. And one day I will make this asset available to you all, because I think after doing it, I think this is the quintessential way to piece together the story, and I think giving you guys this asset eventually will make that accessible for people. So I'm really excited about that. I want to thank Absa and Zard for accepting the paid task of helping me put all the raw data into this mind map so that I could better understand everything. I want to thank Paragod for fulfilling all of my footage requests and creating so many cinematic scenes for this video and for you all to enjoy. And I last of all want to thank John Devlin for the incredible thumbnail. And of course, thank you for watching. There are some really exciting things ahead, and I actually believe this might be the best story that From Software have ever put together. I just think not only are there so many amazing item descriptions, but so many of them are impactful. There are so many moments where you piece together the story and have like a eureka moment, and I'm enjoying it so much. But now I'm gonna go and play the game a little bit, because I've been editing this video for too long. So, See you next time.
Amazing video. That was a really good video. I'm sure you all have a lot of questions. I even have more questions myself. Honestly, like Vaati said, a lot of these concepts and themes are, you know, pretty much open to interpretation. But then, you know, there are those few that are like just like concrete. This was a great reaction video. I plan on doing another one. We did get the frenzied flame ending in, you know, my playthrough, and I was very confused on that, as you guys all saw towards the end of the video. And now I'm pretty sure Vaati has a lore video kind of, you know, explaining the frenzied flame and touching up on that. So I plan on doing that reaction next. I'm sure a lot of the questions that I have and you have will get answered in the DLC. So, you know, we're just waiting for that, which is fortunately right around the corner. But yeah, you guys, that's the video, and yeah, Celeste out. See ya.